Jack has returned after a long business trip abroad. The first light of dawn had just touched the horizon when Jack received the life-altering news. Lytutien was pregnant. He sat in his small apartment in the U.S., his phone still warm from their call, her trembling voice replaying in his mind. A surge of joy mixed with urgency coursed through him. He knew he had to be with her. Without hesitation, Jack opened his laptop, his fingers shaking slightly as he booked a red-eye flight to Vietnam, the earliest one available that evening. At the airport, Jack paced near the gate, his thoughts a chaotic swirl. The plane's engines roared as it lifted off, carrying him across the Pacific, each passing mile narrowing the gap between him and Lytutien. He pulled out a photo from his wallet, a snapshot of her radiant smile on their wedding day, her white dress glowing in the sunlight. The image steadied his racing heart, reminding him of their shared dreams now coming to life. The flight stretched on, the hum of the aircraft a constant backdrop to his restless thoughts. Jack's mind drifted to their future, imagining a child with Lytutien's gentle eyes and his own determined spirit. As the plane began its descent into Hanoi, his anticipation peaked. He barely registered the airport's chaos, his focus singular, reaching Lytutien as quickly as possible. He flagged down a taxi, the city's familiar streets rushing by as he urged the driver to go faster. The taxi pulled up to his family's modest home, where his mother stood waiting at the gate, her face a mix of concern and curiosity. Jack stepped out, his travel-weary expression breaking into a determined smile. "Mother, I'm back," he said, his voice steady despite the exhaustion. "Lytutien is pregnant. We need to prepare for the wedding, soon." His mother's eyes widened, then softened with joy, her hands clasping his in a warm embrace. She ushered him inside, already listing the tasks ahead: invitations, decorations, and traditional rituals. Jack nodded, grateful for her immediate support, but his thoughts were already with Lytutien, wondering how she was coping with the news. The family gathered around a small wooden table, the air fragrant with jasmine tea. Jack explained the situation, his tone firm yet emotional, as his mother and siblings began planning with fervor. His younger sister suggested a simple ceremony, while his mother jotted down expenses, her brow creasing with focus. The room buzzed with activity, but Jack felt a quiet resolve. He needed to see Lytutien, to hold her and assure her they'd face this together. As the discussion concluded, Jack grabbed his jacket, his determination unwavering. "I'm going to Lytutien's house now," he announced, his mother nodding in approval, her eyes filled with pride. Lytutien sat in her family's modest living room, her hands fidgeting nervously as she shared the news with her father. The morning light streamed through the window, casting a soft glow on the wooden floor, but the atmosphere was thick with tension. Her father, a man weathered by years of worry, listened in silence, his face etched with concern. His eyes, usually warm with affection, now held a storm of doubt as Lytutien spoke of her pregnancy and Jack's return. "Father, Jack is coming back today," Lytutien said, her voice quivering with emotion. "We want to get married soon, for the baby." Her father's expression hardened, his jaw clenching as he absorbed her words. He had always been fiercely protective of Lytutien, especially after the challenges she'd faced. The idea of her rushing into marriage, even with Jack, filled him with unease, fearing she might be acting out of necessity rather than certainty. "Lytutien, you're my only daughter," he said, his voice low and deliberate. "I want you to be happy, but this is so sudden. Are you sure Jack is ready for this responsibility?" Lytutien nodded, her eyes pleading for understanding. She knew her father's concerns stemmed from love, but she also knew Jack's heart, his steadfast devotion since their wedding day. when he'd vowed to stand by her forever. Before she could respond, the sound of a motorbike echoed outside, and Jack appeared at the gate. Lytutien's heart soared as she hurried to greet him, her father trailing behind with a slower, more cautious step. Jack dismounted, his face lighting up at the sight of Lytutien, but his smile wavered when he noticed her father's stern gaze. "Good afternoon, Uncle," Jack said respectfully, bowing slightly. Her father nodded curtly, his eyes sharp as he sized Jack up. They moved inside, the air heavy with unspoken tension as they sat around the small dining table. Lytutien's father poured tea, his movements slow and deliberate, as Jack began to speak. "Uncle, I know this is sudden, but I love Lytutien with all my heart. I promise to take care of her and our child." His voice was steady, but his hands fidgeted slightly, revealing his nerves. Lytutien reached for his hand under the table, offering a reassuring squeeze. Her father remained silent for a long moment, his gaze fixed on Jack. Finally, he spoke, his tone gruff but softer than before. "I'm not pleased about the timing, Jack, but I see how much you care for her. If this is what Lytutien wants, I'll agree, but I'll be watching you closely." Jack exhaled, relief washing over him, though the weight of her father's words lingered. Lytutien's eyes brimmed with tears, grateful for her father's reluctant approval. The evening sun dipped below the horizon as Lytutien set the table for dinner, the aroma of steamed rice and stir-fried vegetables wafting through the small house. Jack sat across from her father, the earlier tension still palpable in the air. Lytutien moved between the kitchen and the dining area, her steps quick but careful, trying to lighten the mood. She placed a bowl of soup in front of her father, offering a small smile, but his expression remained guarded. Jack cleared his throat, breaking the heavy silence. "Uncle, my family is already preparing for the wedding. We'd like to hold it next month, something simple but meaningful." Lytutien's father glanced at him, his eyes narrowing slightly. "Next month?" he repeated, his tone sharp with disbelief. "That's far too soon. There are traditions to follow, preparations to make. You can't rush something this important." Jack nodded, his jaw tightening as he tried to remain respectful. Lytutien sat down beside Jack, her hands clasped tightly in her lap. "Father, we don't want to wait too long because of the baby," she said gently, her voice soft but firm. "We'll make sure everything is done properly, I promise." Her father sighed, his shoulders slumping slightly as he picked up his chopsticks. The clink of dishes filled the room as they began to eat, the silence less hostile but still heavy with unspoken concerns. As the meal progressed, Jack shared more details about the wedding plans, mentioning his mother's ideas for a small ceremony in their village. Lytutien's father listened, occasionally nodding, though his reluctance was still evident. "I just want to make sure you're not rushing into something you'll regret," he said finally, his voice softer now. Jack met his gaze, his expression earnest. "I'd never let that happen, Uncle. Lytutien means everything to me." The dinner ended with a tentative understanding, though Lytutien's father's concerns hadn't fully dissipated. As they cleared the table, Jack helped Lytutien in the kitchen, their hands brushing as they worked. "I think he'll come around," Jack whispered, offering her a reassuring smile. Lytutien nodded, her heart lighter, though a flicker of worry remained about her father's reservations. After dinner, Lytutien and Jack retreated to the small porch outside her house, the night air cool and fragrant with the scent of blooming flowers. They sat close together on a wooden bench, the stars twinkling above as a gentle breeze rustled the leaves. Lytutien leaned against Jack, her head resting on his shoulder, feeling the warmth of his presence after so long apart. Jack wrapped an arm around her, his touch gentle but firm, a silent promise of support. "I can't believe we're going to be parents," Tu Tien said softly, her voice filled with wonder. Jack smiled, his eyes reflecting the starlight as he looked at her. "I've dreamed of this moment since the day we got married," he replied, recalling their wedding in the small garden. "You looked so beautiful walking down the aisle, and now we're building a family together." They sat in comfortable silence for a moment, the weight of the day's events settling around them. Tu Tien's hand rested on her stomach, a small smile playing on her lips as she imagined their child. "What should we name the baby?" she asked, turning to Jack. His face lit up at the question, and he thought for a moment, his brow furrowing in concentration. "If it's a boy, I'd like to name him Ethan," Jack said, his voice warm. "It means strong, and I want our son to grow up resilient, like we've been through all our challenges." Tu Tien nodded, her heart swelling with love for the name. "And if it's a girl?" she asked, her eyes sparkling with curiosity. Jack smiled, brushing a strand of hair from her face. "Sophia," he said. "It means wisdom. I want her to be intelligent and compassionate, just like you." Tu Tien's eyes welled with tears, touched by Jack's thoughtfulness. "Ethan and Sophia," she repeated, the names feeling perfect on her tongue. They continued talking, sharing stories of their own childhoods, laughing at silly memories, and dreaming of the future. The night deepened, but their conversation flowed effortlessly, a quiet joy binding them closer. As the night wore on, Tu Tien's mood shifted, a flicker of unease creeping into her heart. She thought about her father's reluctance at dinner, his words echoing in her mind. "What if he's right, Jack?" she asked suddenly, her voice trembling. "What if we're rushing into this? What if we're not ready?" Jack turned to her, his expression softening as he saw the worry in her eyes. He took her hands in his grip steady and reassuring. "We've been through so much together, Tu Tien," Jack said, his voice calm but firm. "Remember how we faced everything during our wedding planning? We'll get through this too." Tu Tien nodded, but the doubt lingered, her father's stern face flashing in her memory. She couldn't shake the feeling that something might go wrong, that their happiness might be too fragile to last. Jack sensed her unease and pulled her closer, his arms wrapping around her protectively. "I'll talk to your father again tomorrow," he promised. "I'll make sure he knows how serious I am about this, about us." Tu Tien buried her face in his chest, grateful for his strength, but the shadow of doubt remained, casting a chill over their otherwise warm evening. The next morning, Jack returned to Tu Tien's house, determined to ease her father's concerns. He brought a small gift of fruit, a traditional gesture of respect, and sat down with her father once more. "Uncle, I know you're worried," Jack began, his tone earnest. "But I swear to you, I'll do everything in my power to make Tu Tien happy. Please trust me." Her father's expression softened slightly, but his eyes still held a trace of skepticism. The days leading up to the wedding were a whirlwind of preparations, with both families coming together despite the underlying tension. Tu Tien's father began to warm to Jack, seeing his dedication as he helped with the arrangements, from setting up decorations to ensuring the ceremony honored their traditions. Tu Tien watched them work together, her heart lifting at the sight of her father's gradual acceptance. On the eve of the wedding, Tu Tien and Jack sat together again, this time in her family's garden, surrounded by the same peach blossoms that had framed their first wedding. "I think Father is starting to trust you," Tu Tien said, a hopeful smile on her face. Jack nodded, his relief evident. "I'll keep proving myself to him," he replied, his voice filled with determination. They talked about their future, imagining their child growing up in a home filled with love, just as they had dreamed. Tu Tien felt a renewed sense of hope, the doubts of the previous days fading in the warmth of Jack's presence. As the sun set, casting a golden glow over the garden, they held hands, ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead as a family.
Dạ vâng, thế thì anh nhớ tag tên em vào trong cái video đấy nhá.
Ok nhé. Nói chuyện giống AI vậy.
Để có gì em còn gửi cho bạn đi.
Ok nhé, em nói đi. Em nói đi em.
Em chỉ muốn gọi là gửi lời, cái đầu tiên là em muốn chúc bạn ấy có thật nhiều sức khỏe, bởi vì bạn ấy cứ mỗi đến một lần bạn ấy đến thời tiết mà thay đổi ấy, kiểu thay đổi đột ngột ấy, là bạn ấy hay kiểu bị đau họng rồi đau đầu, tức là bạn ấy hay bị ốm vặt lắm. Và cái điều đó cũng làm cho em rất là lo về sức khỏe cho bạn ấy. Cái thứ hai là đợt tới đây là bạn ấy đang đi học, để học về gọi là làm về bảo hiểm, thì em cũng chúc bạn ấy thì đợt tới thứ hai tới thi thì sẽ được may mắn và sẽ được đạt thành tích rất là cao, và sẽ được đạt được những điều mà mình mong muốn.
Ok nhé, cảm ơn
Và
em. Thay
điều
mặt
cuối
bạn.
cùng là em muốn chúc bạn ấy là hạnh phúc, và đặc biệt là phải hạnh phúc ở bên em.
Chứ là thằng khác thì đừng hạnh phúc, đúng không?
Sao anh lại nói thế? Nói chung là em chúc bạn ấy hạnh phúc, và chủ yếu vẫn là phải hạnh phúc ở bên em.
Ok nhé.
Nhưng mà chắc chắn ở bên em là chắc chắn là sẽ hạnh phúc rồi.